49ers Seahawks, the once blistering, white-hot rivalry, which has simmered down a little bit in recent years. And in this game, we saw the first significant action for Trey Lance. But Garoppolo started this game out hot. Ken Norton tries to fool Garoppolo and the 49ers with a trick on defense early. The 49ers send a man in motion, that's Deebo Samuel, and we see a defender go with him. So the Niners might think that this is man coverage here, but this is really just a trick. You see, the Seahawks know that the 49ers like to snap it right when that motion man gets into the backfield area. So right at the snap, that defender is actually going to come on a blitz. Deebo Samuel will actually be picked up by the outside linebacker. But it does beg the question, what if he had just turned around? Or what if the running back had gone out for a pass? Well, the Seahawks have a plan to deal with that too. They're going to drop the safety down into coverage. So what then if the flankers go deep? Or what if George Kittle goes deep? So the Seahawks, to deal with that, are going to rotate Jamal Adams back to the deep safety position. And finally, we wonder, what then happens if Kittle runs an intermediate route? Bobby Wagner will drop back into a zone to take that play away. It's a very creative defense. The corners on the outside are playing man, the rest of the defense is in a zone, and they're sending a blitz. But this play doesn't work for Seattle, and it comes down to execution. What happened? Well, we see Garoppolo faking the handoff to Trey Sermon, and instead of dropping back into the zone, Bobby Wagner bites on the fake. So now there's absolutely nobody left to cover George Kittle. Remember, Adams is rotating over, so that safety isn't really there. Let's see how it all plays out. Garoppolo sees the open man, gets him the football, and the Niners threaten early. Ken Norton would continue to be creative on defense on the next play. At the snap, we see that the Seahawks have 5 men on the line of scrimmage. They're threatening to send a 5-man blitz here. But in actuality, Carlos Dunlap is going to drop back into a zone with the rest of the Seahawks defense. Now look at the right side of the 49ers formation, and we see something very unusual. George Kittle is staying in to block while Ross Dwelley is going out for a pass route. In fact, Dwelley becomes the only 49er who's covered one-on-one in this situation. Why? Well, the 49ers send Trent Sherfield into the zone of Jamal Adams. Garoppolo identifies the one-on-one receiver and gets him the football. Touchdown, San Francisco. Now the Seahawks accomplished more than just some sleight of hand here. By dropping back into a zone, they give Trent Williams, one of the 49ers' best offensive linemen, nothing to do on the play. And he would end up assisting Laken Tomlinson. But on the right side, we see George Kittle is blocking in pass protection one-on-one. Now, the Niners could have slid McGlinchey over to help him, but again, they didn't know who was coming and who wasn't coming. Furthermore, the running back goes out for a pass route. They probably weren't counting on center Alex Mack getting beat at the point of attack. But for Seattle, it was just too late. They left a man one-on-one, and it was an easy read for Garoppolo. They kick the extra point to make it 7-0, but wait a second. Number 18, that's not Robbie Gould, that's Mitch Wishnowsky, the punter. Robbie Gould, the 49ers' regular kicker, was injured in pregame warmups, and that would have a big impact on this game. The 49ers' pass rush also had a good day. Check out D. Ford on the speed rush, and right tackle Cedric Ogbuhe can't handle the speed as Ford goes right around him. But we're going to see 2 unusual things from Russell Wilson here. The first is he absolutely stares down his receiver. He just gets locked in, doesn't take his eyes off him, doesn't go through his progressions. And the second is we see Wilson take an absolute shot at the end of this play, something we don't see very often. It's why he's been able to protect his health. But he never saw the speed and power of D. Ford coming. Boom! Wilson gets clobbered, and the Seahawks would punt back to San Francisco, but the 49ers wouldn't be able to capitalize. Here we see Deebo Samuel coming over the middle. The problem is this window is very, very tight, and it's already closing fast. These defenders are too close to him. Now, in this channel in the past, we've praised Garoppolo for being able to start his throwing motion before the receivers even make their break. He's got great anticipation in that area. And that's exactly what he needed to do here if he wants to throw this pass. He needs to start his throwing motion right here, right before Deebo makes his break. Instead, he's late, and he decides to try to gun this ball in there, to rifle it in there. But just like a pitcher who's trying to put a little something extra on his fastball, the ball rises on him. One question remains. Could he have gone anywhere else with the football? And the answer is yes. He had the running back for a short gain here. Now, it only would have got him a couple of yards, not as many as the pass to Deebo, but it's first down. There's just no reason to force this ball into Deebo, and the 49ers are very lucky that wasn't intercepted. Now, as hot as they were on the first drive, the 49er offense here looks out of sync, and the real damage would come just 2 plays later. Now, the first thing quarterbacks do is read the safeties. Here we see Garoppolo looking right at Quandre Diggs. He knows he's there. Now here we see Garoppolo winding up to throw a pass to George Kittle, but Diggs is still right there, right in the middle of the field, and it sets him up for an easy interception. All right, now once again we're going to ask, is there anywhere else he could have gone with the football? Let's go back and take a look. Okay, let's stop it here and take a look at 2 possibilities. The first is Brandon Ayuk on the outside. Now, I don't really like this one. This is a long pass way down the field, but it does look like he might have some room to get it to the outside there. I think that that's a low percentage play, and the defenders are going to come over and try to make a play on that ball. I like the second option a lot better, which is Kyle Juszczyk coming out of the backfield. Now, the Seahawks were prepared to meet him with a defender. He would have either had to make a miss or fight through him to the first down line, which is only the 39-yard line. But even if he stops short and the Niners have to punt, that's still a lot better than Diggs intercepting this ball inside the 40-yard line. Okay, let's go back to the snap and see if we can see things from Garoppolo's perspective. Again, we see he's looking right at him. But Garoppolo does try to look him off here. Watch as he turns, and Diggs does take a few steps in that direction. But notice when Garoppolo comes back to Kittle, Diggs hasn't fully committed, and he's able to easily recover. Now, from a standpoint of technique, if Garoppolo wants to throw this pass, he should throw it away from the defender. Instead, the ball sails high into the outside, closer to an easy interception for Diggs. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight. We know after the fact that by now Garoppolo was hurt in the game, right? He said he got injured in the first series. And it took quite a bit of digging to actually find a picture or footage or anything of this, but I do have it for you. And here it is. This happened on the first series, and he kind of gets rolled up on his calf. So that could explain, in part, these last 2 throws. Now, part of it was the physical aspect of it. The ball sailed high to Deebo, and then it sailed on Kittle, right? He wasn't getting a proper throw. And the other part of it has got to be mental, right? Those were both poor decisions on Garoppolo's part. Maybe because he was distracted by pain? Tough to say. Fortunately for the 49ers, the Seahawks got 0 points off this turnover. And I'm going to circle the center here. He has just started moving the ball to snap the football. And now we're going to look at Nick Bosa, and I'm going to show you this in slow motion. Look how fast his reflexes are. That ball is barely moving. Look at that get off. There's just no way to stop that. Nick Bosa sacks Wilson and then jumps over him. And as much as I love the disrespect as a fan, I think we all know that the way the NFL is enforcing these taunting penalties, Niners were lucky they didn't get flagged on that one. Now, whatever adjustments Garoppolo made on the sideline, mentally or physically, totally worked for him because here he was much better on this series. I'm going to start off by circling the defensive end Robinson. Just remember him, file him away, we're going to come back to him later. Next, we see that the Seahawks send a blitz, 5 men. Furthermore, Bobby Wagner has come forward again thanks to a run fake. And here we see another staple of the Shanahan offense, putting defenders in conflict. Should Jamal Adams go with Brandon Ayuk? Or should he drop down to pick up Kyle Juszczyk? He decides to pick up Juszczyk and turns Ayuk loose to the inside, wide open. Garoppolo throws a dart and it's a first down for the 49ers. Alright, I promised you we would talk about Robinson. Now, the 49ers don't know if he's rushing or if he's dropping back into coverage, so they send Ross Dwelley around to pick him up just in case. Turns out he drops back into coverage. The problem for the Seahawks is he isn't really good at it. He completely ignores Juszczyk coming into his area. Adams drops down to pick up Juszczyk, and then Brandon Ayuk comes over the middle wide open. However, by sending Dwelley to the other side, it does mean McGlinchey will have to come all the way to the outside to pick up that edge rusher on the other side. Brunskill and Mack will come over to pick up the tackles. And we see right away McGlinchey's a little bit out of position here, but check out Trey Sermon right there ready to help in pass protection. That's 2 plays now where I've shown you the pass protection didn't go perfectly, but was still successful. Why? Well, it's true, the Niners did add some more physical talent in the offseason with the addition of Trent Williams and Alex Mack last year and this year. However, it's more than just that. The 49ers offensive line is finding something they haven't had in several years, which is chemistry. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. They feel confident about it, and as a result, they're making very few mistakes, and when they do make mistakes, they're able to very comfortably and naturally deal with them as they come up. Through the first 3 games of this season, we've seen the pass protection has been much improved for the 49ers. It doesn't mean they're perfect, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But overall, so far I like what I'm seeing in 2021. The 49ers start out this next play with another run fake. This time Wagner doesn't bite, but the outside linebacker Brooks does. And unfortunately for the Seahawks, Juwan Jennings takes the space the defense left behind. The 49ers keep it going with another run fake. And this time we see the entire 49ers offensive line move to their left, and virtually the entire Seahawks defense bites on the play. In fact, check out the corner peeking into the backfield here, allowing Brandon Ayuk to blow right by him. Now, the safety, Marquise Blair, yes, it's not Quandre Diggs and it's not Jamal Adams, he does see Deebo Samuel coming across. But because Ayuk is streaking to the end zone, he turns around to pick him up, allowing Deebo to come wide open across the middle of the field for a 26-yard gain. We've reached the end of the first quarter, and there's a TV timeout, and the team switch sides. And what do you do here if you're the Seattle Seahawks defense? You've been getting absolutely torched all game long, and the Niners are just marching right down the field. And you've got to do something to slow them down. You've got to do something to stop the bleeding here. Seems like the perfect time for a linebacker blitz. Pete Carroll loves doing these blitzes on second down, usually right after a timeout, something to disrupt the offense and force them into a 3rd and long situation. Now watch Brooks real carefully here. He tries to be casual and play it cool, but notice he steps towards the line of scrimmage. Now I was very frustrated when I watched this live because I felt the 49ers should have seen this one coming a mile away. Unfortunately, Dan Brunskill and Alex Mack double team one player, while Laken Tomlinson and Trent Williams double team another player. Tomlinson tries to recover, but it's not even close. Brooks has a clear shot at Garoppolo, and it's a huge play for the Seahawks defense, one they desperately needed. So now the 49ers are forced to attempt a 41-yard field goal with their punter, Mitch Wishnowsky. And, understandably, he missed. So the score is still 7-0 after all of this action. Now here the pass protection for the Seahawks is pretty good, but so is the coverage on the back end for the 49ers. Russell Wilson has nowhere to go with the football. And check out Dee Ford and Javon Kinlaw, never giving up, working until they get the sack. Very impressive. Niners still have control of this game, and it's here that I think Shanahan makes his first bad decision of the afternoon. We see running back Jaquez Patrick that the 49ers just picked up from Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, heading out on an edge run, and the Seattle defense is pursuing to the play. But on the other side, check out George Kittle going deep. And it's here we see the true design of the play, a double pass. This is legal as long as your first pass is backwards. Garoppolo has Kittle wide open for a long touchdown, and Jamal Adams looks like he's playing offense on this play. But the pass back to Garoppolo is high, and now the timing of the play is disrupted, and Garoppolo has to cut this thing loose now, as soon as his back foot hits. Instead, he takes a couple of extra steps and then takes a safe throw away from the defender that's incomplete. And this play would kind of sum up the afternoon for the 49ers. Someone on Twitter quipped, "Now Garoppolo knows how his receivers feel." And this is why I say this was a bad decision by Kyle Shanahan. A trick play like the double pass is something you practice over and over and over again for months with the same personnel, not something you call with your running back that you just picked up off the Bengals practice squad a couple of weeks ago. This should not be a surprise that the play was unsuccessful. The Seattle defense reacts as if they made the play. But on the next series, it's the Seattle offense that would finally get going in this game. And here they spread the 49ers out with 5 wide receivers. The 49ers cover one of those wide receivers with a linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair. Unfortunately for the 49ers, that receiver is DK Metcalf. He gives Al-Shaair a move to the outside first, and then after the linebacker bites, he comes back to the inside. And Russell Wilson is looking at him the whole way. Now Ward makes the tackle at the 2, but Metcalf fights through and gets the touchdown to tie the game at 7 apiece. The effort by Metcalf on this play kind of reminds me of Juszczyk's effort getting into the end zone against Green Bay at the end of that game. Okay, let's move ahead to the third quarter now. And who is that we see in the backfield? Not Garoppolo, that's Trey Lance. And it was here that we finally learned about Garoppolo's calf injury. Now this was an unexpected change for the 49ers. They didn't realize how severe Garoppolo's injury was until about 1 minute before the half was over. So they had to throw him in there on the fly unexpectedly. And of course, the defense for Seattle has to react too. They admitted after the game they had a hard time adjusting. They said it took them a few series to get adjusted to the change of pace in the game. It's evident here on this first play coming out of the half as everyone on the defense is waiting to see what's going to happen. The Niners send their offensive line to their right, and the defensive line reacts, but the linebackers don't. Also notice the defensive end, Green. He's waiting for Lance to pull that ball and run with it. And when you sit and start to watch, like the linebackers do, you become a spectator. It's no accident that this would be Trey Sermon's longest run of the game. Now here, the Niners have a 3rd and 4, and they call a running play for Trey Lance. Why run on 3rd and 4? They're trying to let the rookie get his feet under him for one thing. They're just trying to get a few snaps. But the most obvious reason is they thought the play would work. The Niners have blockers downfield, and it looks like Lance has a lane to run through. Unfortunately, we can already see that one of the blockers has already been beaten by the defender, and the other one will shortly. And they collapse around Lance well short of the line to gain. Now, one of the reasons the defenders were able to shed their blocks is because they knew it was a running play. Here we see Lance takes off as soon as he gets the football, and if he adds a little hesitation first, he might give those blocks a better chance to succeed. We pick it up a little later in the third, and here the Seahawks are threatening. Now the 49ers have all the receivers for Seattle covered. But notice Nick Bosa taking the inside rush lane, and there's no one to contain to the outside. So Wilson sees all that green grass, and he likes what he sees. He's going to take that lane. Kinlaw will try to pursue, but it's in vain. Now, Kinlaw actually gets hurt there as Wilson scores the touchdown, and the Seahawks take a 14-7 lead. And here, the 49ers do something you absolutely cannot do, which is give Seattle a freebie when you're down 7 points with your rookie backup quarterback in the game. Here we see Cannon muff the kickoff. Now, he does the right thing here. He falls on it, and he should have just stayed down right here. Instead, he tries to get up. Ball's poked out again. It's a fumble, and the Seahawks recover. Ouch. The Seahawks would capitalize immediately. Here we see Wilson just before the snap, looking to his left, checking out the defense, and probably looking at Dante Johnson, who's coming on a corner blitz. Now watch Wilson's head. He makes sure, he has to reach down for that snap. He makes sure to secure the snap first before turning his attention back to Johnson. Now he probably had a pretty good idea this was coming, so he's ready to go with this move. And finally, we see that again one of the receivers for the Seahawks has come wide open, Freddie Swain this time, and again, Azeez Al-Shaair is sprinting to catch up to get back into coverage. How did Swain get so wide open, and was Shaair supposed to be covering him on that play? Let's go back to the snap and take a look. At the start of the play, we see Freddie Swain in motion. This time it's the Niners' turn to be in a zone. And here you can see that Al-Shaair just can't stay with him. A couple of times in this game now, the Seahawks were able to isolate some wide receivers against linebackers, and they exploited it to their advantage. So let's move on to the play of the game for the 49ers. The Seahawks send another 5-man blitz. They're going to pressure this young rookie. But again, look at the linebackers just sitting there like statues, waiting to see what's going to happen. The problem on this play for Seattle, though, was a major miscommunication between Jamal Adams and Sidney Jones. Less Trey Flowers, more Sidney Jones this week for the Seahawks, and Adams thinks that they're playing zone, while Jones is playing man-to-man, so he takes Brandon Ayuk all the way across the field, and I believe Sidney Jones was in error here. Jamal Adams is stuck covering every blade of grass, and Deebo Samuel comes wide open. Now Lance doesn't get enough on this throw, but he's so wide open he's able to stop, wait for the football, and while I admire the effort of these tryhards for Seattle, you're not going to catch Deebo Samuel when he has that much of a lead. Now check it out though, that is number 56, Brooks. That's a linebacker. He's got some speed on him. Now watch when Lance pulls this ball back to pass and the entire defense says, "Oh shoot." Now Shanahan is pumped. His young rookie has just thrown a big touchdown pass in a tight game, but here I think he makes another bad decision. The score is 21-13, and he decides to go for two. Remember, the 49ers don't have their regular kicker. They have the punter, and he missed a field goal earlier in the game. So I can understand that. But then the offense makes a false start, and they move back a few more yards, and now he sends Wishnowsky out to try the kick, which he misses. To me, this was very backwards. You would think you would want to try that kick when you're up closer to the goal line, and once there's a penalty and you move further away, now you bring your offense onto the field because the kick is a lower percentage play. I just didn't understand some of these decisions he was making. Now, it's still technically a one-score game, right? 21-13. So Seattle can't take their foot off the gas. And in the fourth quarter, they add another touchdown. And the blocking on this play was really a thing of beauty for Seattle. They really took it to the 49ers here. Look how far downfield this offensive line is. And Collins just does a great job of following his blocks all the way into the end zone. Very impressive run. And now the Seahawks go up by a more comfortable margin of 28-13. So now we're going to move ahead to about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and the 49ers need to score twice. Shanahan has got to get this rookie going at the start of this drive. They have to score on this play. He's got to get him in a rhythm. And I think that right there speaks to how difficult it is to have a backup quarterback come in the middle of the game when he's not ready, right? It's the fourth quarter and he's still trying to get him into a rhythm. But he does the perfect thing and starts off with a nice easy pass to Kyle Juszczyk out of the backfield to get this drive going. In fact, he calls another pass to Juszczyk, this time on a screen. And as this drive went on, we really got to see Lance in his element. Here he shows great pocket presence and finds the open receiver. We saw a lot of good from Trey Lance on this last drive. Here Sherfield does a nice job of sitting up in the window, and Lance doesn't get enough on this ball again, but he goes to the ground and makes the catch. Sometimes you got to make your quarterback look good, right? Here we see Lance make a pre-snap read. Look how much space the Seahawks are leaving for Mohamed Sanu. The defender thinks he's close enough, but he's not close enough. And Lance gets him the football. The drive continues. And here, Shanahan and Lance would cap off the drive quite nicely. It's a simple bubble screen to Deebo. He's not asking his rookie to do too much, but there are 3 blockers against 3 defenders here. Now it looks like Seattle rallies, but Deebo fights his way into the end zone for the touchdown. Okay, Niners need a 2-point conversion, and they would get it with a run that plays to Trey Lance's strengths and something they did an awful lot at North Dakota State, the short yardage run. McGlinchey and Brunskill will block to the inside, while Juszczyk will take out the end. George Kittle will pick off the middle linebacker, but there's still one more defender there. That's okay. The Niners are going to pull Laken Tomlinson all the way around to take care of him, and Lance does a good job of just following his blocks into the end zone. Something that, again, plays to his strengths. The 2-point conversion is good, and it makes the final score 28-21. And there was a lot to like about Trey Lance on that drive. He got in a rhythm early. He had excellent pocket presence and was able to find open receivers downfield. He made pre-snap reads. He didn't try to do too much, and he played to his strengths. Now that's all good. But if we're going to be honest, and we're going to take a hard look in the mirror here, we've got to talk about the bad, because that's the big elephant in the room, and that was Trey Lance for most of this game was not good throwing the football. Is it time to panic? For the long term, the answer is no, of course not. I've seen some people suggest that Shanahan is somehow at fault for failing to develop Lance, and I think that's a little premature. If it's year 3 and Lance looks like this, absolutely level that charge against Shanahan, and I will be standing there right beside you. But guys, it's week 4. Let's be honest. We're talking about a kid who just turned 21 years old, who's been out of football for a whole year now. And he's only thrown 300 passes in college, and now he's making the jump to the NFL. He threw 2 touchdowns. He didn't do too bad, all things considered. Some things to like about this game. Lance is, in every instance that we've seen him, in Detroit, in Green Bay, and now here against Seattle, excellent in the red zone. In addition to that, Deebo Samuel continues to just dominate in the NFL. He's still leading the league in receiving yards despite the setbacks that the 49ers have had, switching quarterbacks, and this is a huge deal. Trey Sermon really looked like he got his legs under him, And he still didn't play on third downs at all, but there was a couple of times where he did help out in pass protection. So he's getting better at that, right? And that's something that the coaches will be looking for before they trust him with a bigger role. That's my dog, Frank. Frank Gore, everyone. The pass protection has looked great this year. The 49ers are among the league leaders when it comes to protecting the quarterback, and that's a great sign for whoever is going to be under center. The pass rush has looked pretty strong too. Nick Bosa and Dee Ford seem to be off to a really good start this year. The special teams have been pretty good for the first 3 weeks, and then in week 4, they had that setback. You know, Trenton Cannon had that fumble. He also had that weird play where he appeared to down the ball at the 1 and then rolled into the end zone and maybe didn't understand the rule there. And of course, you know, Robbie Gould's injury is a big factor, right? That's an area where the 49ers were doing really good, and then they fell off a little bit, and they're going to need to pick it back up. So what do we make of Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals? Do we even know who's starting the game? Shanahan's being coy. This video will come out Friday afternoon, so maybe we'll know by then whether or not Garoppolo has practiced, which is usually the key indicator. If your starters practice on a Friday, that means they're usually going to play in the game. But I think when we take a look back at last year and Garoppolo's performance with those lower leg injuries, he had a really hard time, if we're just being honest with ourselves, right? It might be a better week to let him rest and give Trey Lance a chance. And if Lance goes in there and tears it up and beats the 4-0 Arizona Cardinals, that gives Shanahan a reason to give Lance another week, right? And if Lance really struggles and it's clear that he's just not ready yet, then we can go back to Garoppolo and say, okay, you know, he was never going to lose his job due to injury, which we all know isn't quite true, but it gives Shanahan the credibility to say that, and then we can bring Lance in later on when he's more ready, more developed, etc. We knew when this kid was coming out of North Dakota State, he was going to be a project. We all knew that. But he left us with a lot to like on the field against the Seahawks, and I think we're all secretly keeping our fingers crossed, hoping that we get to see more of him against Arizona. And we hope that he does well, right? Maybe those were just first game jitters, some of those passes that just didn't find their target for whatever reason, and maybe he'll put it together. What we need from the 49ers is for them to put a whole game together, you know, offense, defense, and special teams. The offense needs to be firing on all cylinders for the whole game like they were in the Detroit game. The defense needs to start strong and then close out the game. And the special teams need to be consistent. If they do that, of course they've got a chance to win. It's the NFL. You know, they're all professionals. Arizona, yes, they're very strong, but they don't have a good record against Shanahan. So there's always hope, right? Regardless of what's going to happen, you know we are going to be there to break that game down. It took a long time to make this video. If you guys could just give me 10 seconds and click that like button, I would really appreciate it. All right, it's Niners, it's Cardinals, it's happening on Sunday, and we will be there to break down that film afterwards, and I will see you guys then.